And welcome back to the minor league for the second half of today. We've already discussed Europe, and now we're on to North America, where we get to have a little look at the start of the day. Spacestation Gold up against Sanguine. Here's a little look at the standings.
And it's been a pretty interesting time, I think, for Spacestation Gold and Sanguine. Both of these teams definitely trying to still prove themselves. Both of them didn't really have the strongest Week 1 debuts, but hey, there's still plenty of weeks left to go.
So one of these teams at least will get themselves their first W of the minor league North America. And it's two teams that I'm excited to see, because Spacestation Gold, obviously, a lot of names, a lot of streamers on there that have been around. Funny enough, you live with two of them. We won't go too much into that, but how their comms been? Are they good comms? The bad comms?
They're interesting.
They're comms.
I think that I can hear words definitely being yelled.
I've seen Chapo stream, so there's definitely words that get yelled. I don't know whether it makes any sense, though, and Agro's always talking about playing with Chapo, so something to do with comms there. But the other team that I want to talk about is the Sanguine roster. Now, these guys are all Latin American players, and they're kind of godlike, to be fair. I think they're very underrated and a potential upset team of the minor league that people may be sleeping on, and this could be a set for them to prove that.
I think that if we had called them a sleeper team a year ago, that would have made sense. But nowadays, sure. I do really feel like a lot of pros and the amateur league players alike are really starting to recognize some of the talent levels that have started to shine over in Latin America.
Yeah.
And I think that this is why it's so massive to see this team from LATAM making it into the SML, because these guys have all been around the LATAM scene for some time. I think that they are a team that has definitely flourished off of aggression, but they're also a team that has an unreal amount of synergy.
Definitely, and I think the one thing like we were discussing about, like, you know, we call them a sleeper team. I mean, for the general public, not for like the player base, because like the pros themselves and the semi-pros, they know this team's around and they're good players. Yeah. But the actual casuals are just like, oh, the Latam kids, right? What do they deserve
Every
a team
single
for?
time.
But maybe this may prove you just wrong up against Space Station. Now, when we go into this one as well, do you reckon we're going to see anything different in the picks and bans at all? Is there anything unusual we're expecting here?
I can't say that I can really predict anything that Space Station Gold are going to do. Those guys are about as bizarre as anything else you would expect. But as far as Sanguine is concerned, maybe some focuses towards like the Kumakarnas, the Bakases. I think that support heavy and frontline heavy tends to be the standard for these players.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to keep an eye on Panitom this game as well in the jungle for Sanguine. Panitom's going to be the jungler, and this meta this season has been through the junglers quite a lot of where the pressure points come from here. What are we expecting him to bring?
It's really early to call it, but Panitom has always been a player where he's very hit or miss, and that inconsistency, I think, has been a large part of the reason why, at times, the teams that he's been with have struggled to win. But I think that's why the SML is so crucial for him, because it's helping him develop that consistency that he's been missing for some time. I think that as far as Godpool is concerned, expect to see the Susanos without a doubt. I think that he's also someone that has a tendency to lean a little bit more towards like the Ullrs and can flex into the Warriors if necessary.
Well, let's get into picks and bans and see how this one breaks out then between Space Station and Sanguine. Obviously, the two compositions themselves, I mean, Space Station Gold made up of, well, players that have either flirted with pro player or played professionally before, whereas Sanguine are a team of, well, the LATAM team that has represented them quite a few times during the international stages, finding themselves with a little bit more of an established team that was stuck together for a while. Sanguine will ban away Ullr as their first ban. That's interesting.
Smart ban away. Maz did play it in Week 1, so I think that maybe they have some concerns there that Chapo and Maz might have developed a little bit more synergy when looking for the Poseidon-Erlang mashup, but I definitely think that taking away the Freya is huge here. Oswaald loves his Freya, and so it's really important to keep him off of it.
So is it Bacchus in this spot that you're looking to ban away? I'm trying to think of the big bans for the most part. We've seen a lot of Bacchus, but Naja in the support role can cause a lot of problems too.
One reason why I could see Sanguine maybe not being as concerned about the Bacchus, not only because of the fact that they're first pick, but also because of the fact that I think their frontlining members, their solo laner and their support, are also really good with the RDO. And I think the flexibility of that pick maybe doesn't cause as much concern around Bacchus.
Fenrir will be the first pick for Sanguine. We've seen it a lot in the support role as time's going on here. Interesting to see if it will go to Ronngyu for Sanguine, or will it be Flexus solo, or maybe the jungle position? Jing locked in for Oswaald here, and the Vamana. No real surprises with those two picks.
Just in case that Fenrir does end up in the duo lane, Jing is really important here because she's got the escape potential, and even though Brutalize can follow her through her dash, I'm not sure that a Fenrir would want to throw himself that far out of position unless he's guaranteed the kill.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well, that self-gust that you can do in yourself can knock up and cancel out the Brutalize as well if you're kind of lucky. We'll see how that works out.
Oh, not the Brutalize. Only the jump. You can cancel the jump, but
can you not cancel the Brutalize with a gust?
It's the knock-up immunity.
Is it knock-up immune if you knock yourself up as you're getting Brutalized? That's what I was thinking.
If the Brutalize has already been applied, it'll stick onto the Jing.
Oh, didn't know that. So if you're actually in the air being Brutalized...
At least as far as my interactions are
concerned. No,
because
I'm pretty sure if Bacchus flops, he cancels that out, right?
Well, if Bacchus flop, we'll cancel it out,
yeah, because you're in the air, right?
But Jing, if you're already being brutalized and you self-gust, it'll stick on him.
Well, there you go. You learn something every day. I know people do. Susano locked in for Sanguine to go with the Xbalanque and the Fenrir, so pretty physical heavy so far. Going to need some magical at some point.
I will say, though, Fenrir is probably one of the jankier interactions surrounding Unchained and Brutalized, so that is the one big thing about him, is that it can be weird in both ways, and so
one of us is wrong. If it's me, I don't really care. Don't worry about it. I'll take out the chin. I don't care anymore anyway, it seems. Ullr, Jing, so double Hunter from Spacestation Gaming. Now, we saw a little bit of this earlier on in Europe, and it didn't work out too well for them. Double physicals, Taco, can cause some problems because you need a little bit more support for them in these engagements. They've got sustained damage, but burst can be a problem.
Well, they're going to find a lot of survivability, I think, with that Geb, but the duo lane is looking a little bit questionable here for Space Station. Really low pressure between Jingwei and the Geb.
Well, you said that in the cast earlier. Like, Jingwei, you're guaranteeing you're not going to be putting pressure in the lane, and then you add a Geb to that, it's going to be the same situation.
Geb is fantastic against Fenrir. You do have to appreciate a good Geb shield into the Fenrir.
Definitely.
That's going to cancel out a lot of the Ragnarok threat. But Sanguine, I think control could be a concern here for sure, because they've got a lot of aggression, but that doesn't necessarily translate to them having survivability off of that aggression. I think that you're having to invest a lot more often than not when you're looking for Fenrir or Susano for initiation.
Well, Sanguine versus Space Station Gold, the players are ready, the casters are ready. We should get over to them because Space Station have 4 physicals?
They do, and is that going to work out for them? It could certainly be punished by Sanguine, as it's Finch and Tolly here on the call. Can Space Station make this work with Chapo on the Ullr mid?
You were talking about it, how we should be seeing a magical jungler, but instead they went for the Bakasura last pick, leaving a lonely Geb for Mattypocket as the only magical damage source. I don't mind it because Mask does have a lot of just like true damage with the Butcher Blaze.
Right, he won't be too worried.
But if it gets to the late game and Sanguine has, let's say, 3.5 physical defense items each, then I don't see this working out for Space Station.
It'll definitely be difficult for them, but doesn't it looks kind of clear that they want some early pressure, it feels like to me, between this Bakasura and then the Ullr in the mid lane. Maybe if that works, if they can get that ball rolling quickly in the middle lane, then Sanguine might be on the back foot and not have time. Never mind, it's actually Space Station on the back foot as Sprint forced out after the horrific from Ronngyu.
Mattypocket not even concerned at all, still having the sprint available that he used immediately after, trying to see if he can defend his own purple buff, but he's just taking too much poke damage. The bait is really good out of Sanguine.
There is a mini wave here though, so Rongyu's going to have to give up on this for now. In fact, he'll take a shot from Oswaald for his trouble, and they couldn't quite get the purple buff, so not a bad defense. Sometimes it can be tough to get it on that very first wave. You kind of like to have pressure the first wave, then clear the second, then go get purple, depending on how it is.
Rinse and repeat, and now Chapo around the corner after Ronngyu already jumped, but he will have to jump momentarily.
The axe though, but the knockup is even better. That means Hail of Arrows sets up first blood for Chapo. That's exactly why you pick the Ullr. Though maybe not always to rotate to duo early.
Yeah, that's not the intent when I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to pick Ullr because I'm going to out-clear the first 2 waves, and then off of that second wave out rotation, I'm going to rotate to the duo lane where we're losing pressure because we have Geb support. No, that's not the case. Because normally you're expecting the jungler to make that kind of a rotation, but no, that was your mid player. Chapo getting that first blood is important for him because he's rushing that Transcendence.
Exactly. I'm seeing Ullr get first blood, and I go, okay, yeah, that's how you draw it up, but not necessarily right in that way, so it's still good for Chapo to at least get that, but as long as he doesn't end up losing any farm to Sheento, who's playing the Vulcan in the middle lane on a much more rounded composition. No Guardians for Sanguine, which is a bit of a surprise, but when you've got as much control as they've got here, they might not miss it.
I mean, they also have 4 physical on Sanguine, but the difference is the magical damage dealer is a Vulcan as opposed to a Geb. So you're still gonna have to build magical defense if you're Space Station.
Yeah, look at that. There's physical defense already being considered by Sheento. This might be a Dynasty Plate Helm, something that can be kind of cheap for that first item. He's got some options.
Probably Celestial, if I were
Sure.
to take a guess, trying to go for more mid to late game focus. Dynasty Plate Helm wouldn't be a bad idea if you're looking for some early penetration as well, but keep in mind, like, going for physical defense this early is not going to matter if you're dealing with Mask, but it will negate all the poke damage coming from Chapo's Ullr.
That's a good point. Mast will chew right through it, whether or not he has it, with that true damage from the Bakasura on the Butcher Blades, as we won't get to know what's behind the curtain for Sheento just yet. He's going to prioritize those boots first off. Probably a good idea if a Bakasura is hunting you down.
Yeah, pretty much. You want that mobility. Vulcan also gets mobility. As long as that he hits his abilities, he gets an extra movement speed, some MP5. That could be a way to deal with the Bakasura passive.
Jump in from Ronngyu doesn't quite hit home. We also saw Mask kind of in the jungle. I wonder if he was able to steal those back harpies. We'll talk about another time, as Netrioid does get knocked up, but not going to be the actual potential for the kill. He should be A-okay.
Oswaald just doesn't have the positioning necessary to follow up with some basic attacks. Picking up the solo lane matchup, Jarcorrr hitting level 5 on the Sun Wukong. Interesting development of solo lane builds, going for Mage's Blessing into Talaria boots recently in the minor league, whereas Uzzy, still level 4, finishing off the Gladiator shield, just now hitting level 5.
And another meditation, Totally. We were talking about this earlier, and I liked it into the execute. You walked me through that one. But this time, or at least for Jarcorrr here, I mean, it just feels like, you know, he wants a little bit of extra sustain down.
Well, you don't have to back to base and teleport back if you have sustain from meditation. In theory, it's all situational. It also can help you survive the 1v2 gank if Mast ever comes around the corner. It's important to get that extra burst of health and then get into the Somersault Cloud. That could be what Jarcorrr is thinking of.
Just got to make sure that you're careful. Whenever you're going up against a Bakasura, chances of your buffs getting stolen is heightened. Maybe that's the idea too, just in case that ends up happening, you'll have some extra sustain, as Panitom is at his own speed buff, so nothing particularly exciting there. Maybe it's just a bit of an insurance.
And when you're dealing with a Vamana, you're not going to get heavily bullied to the point where you're going to have to back. Like, Uzzy elected to kind of poke out Jarcorrr instead of clearing the wave, so Jarcorrr is in an advantage to still rotate around the side of the map. But the thing is, they're thinking about team fights. Because Jarcorrr knows he doesn't have to teleport as frequently back to the laning phase, he has the 72 transformations for Eagle Form. He can use that mobility to get back to the lane phase instead of teleport. So he's thinking more about the mid to late game focus of how to keep Sheento alive with this meditation.
Well, it's pen boots for Sheento, but Transcendence finished now for Chapo. An item that Ullrs love to build. It can feel so good once you're finished and you make it to that early game part and you got your boots online. And that's where Chapo's just about to be, plus the red buff. This could potentially be scary for Sheento if he's not careful. Got to make sure he's positioning where he doesn't end up losing these poke trades.
That's right. Even 10% cooldown reduction is going to allow Chapo to be more aggressive the way he wants to. Panitom getting off the pull. Chapo jumping, but it's just too little too late. Hesitated on the beats there.
Wow, and a good ultimate from Netrioid, because Mast was positioned perfectly to wrap around underneath the fight. But once Netrioid turned out the lights, I don't think there was really anything Mast could do. Not to mention that Chapo got deleted so quickly. That's a nice kill for Sanguine to even things back up.
Ulti out of Uzzy. Normally, a Sun Wukong would also ulti in that position, trying to just match the healing done. But the problem is, when you use your Somersault Cloud there, your decoy going to hit Uzzy, and that's going to extend the duration of the big baby. So I like the fact that Jarcorrr held on to that ult.
No reason to give him any extra healing for free, as they only have 2 kills crossing the 6-minute threshold, and the game's still very much even as a result. Despite the fact that there was a bit of a disparity in who'd have pressure early on in the duo lane, Sanguine hasn't really made much happen from it. This Fenrir is just kind of been a Fenrir over there instead of being as aggressive as you normally see, and that resulting in like invades and kills.
He learned his lesson after the rotation from Chapo, keeping him at bay. You could tell that they wanted to look for something out of this Fenrir by going for the purple buff invade, baiting Mattypocket and Oswaald at that level 1 marker to receive more poke, but it just wasn't enough time in the oven to prepare this meal of the invades because of Chapo.
That's okay. Every dog has their day. He'll just wait until he actually gets the best opportunity for him, and then he'll show some of what this Fenrir can do as we watch the Totem of Ku go down yet again. How impactful do you feel like this Ku is? It can certainly be nice mentally when you grab it, and you're like, you hear it, and then you look back at your tower, and you're like, oh, we got that. That's good. We're winning somewhere.
Realistically, you're probably getting, like, if you're dominating your matchup in the laning phase, you're getting about 13 maximum coups because you have to balance out the wave, your blue buff, and the coup, right?
Right.
So at most it's like 12 to 13, and collectively, you know, 125 gold per team. You're looking at about 1,500 to about 1,625 gold, which is basically one gold here. But that's you needing to dominate that totem of coup every single time. In an average game where it's relatively even, you're maybe getting about 3 to 5 instead.
Uzzy rotated in, but he got pulled immediately by Ronngyu into the ultimate from Vulcan, into the tower, and into a kill for Panitom. Even a stun landing on elchapo way back up at the top of middle lane. An easy pick for Sanguine.
I don't know about that rotation. That seemed very forced and just awkward at the end of the day. He wasn't able to get off his ultimate before the stun.
That brings him into the two-man stun from the Unchained. Mattypocket has to use Cataclysm. Ronngyu avoids the axe stun, which might have made that a much messier situation than they wanted. So good damage since Mattypocket back to base.
Jarcorrr using the meditation, topping off Sheento a little bit. Ronngyu getting some of that healing as well to play aggressive if they really wanted to. Panitom looking for the invade, but elchapo punishing him for that positioning. Red buff being secured by Space Station after losing out Uzzy.
Yeah, that's a pipe dream anyway against a Bakasura, right? Invading the buff successfully.
Yeah, it's never happened.
So I don't know, Panitom. Maybe he was looking to see if there was a pick or anything he could find, but instead he gets exactly what he should have expected, which was poke damage and to walk away sad.
I don't know why Uzzy's using his lane clear against Jarcorrr when Jarcorrr already cleared the wave. This is going to allow him to just be a big old bully. There's 10% cooldown reduction onto Uzzy because of the Gladiator Shield, but 20% for Jarcorrr because of the Mage's Blessing on top of it. So every little exchange going to favor the Sun Wukong.
Certainly is. Not just that he's able to hit it easier from range too, so maybe Uzzy wants to make sure he's not letting that health disparity favor Jarcorrr a little bit too much. Blue buff spawning, they'll be able to grab it without any real trouble. And we had a bit of a skirmish there in the middle lane, but aside from that, it's still been relatively quiet. Is that the pace you expected? I mean, with Bakasura, Ullr, Fenrir, Susano, some of these gods selected that can all do well in this time of the game. Are you surprised at all? It's been somewhat slow.
Very surprised, actually. This should be heavily contested. Not buffs necessarily, but looking for these picks. However, there's good vision on the side jungle camps.
Well, this could be that action we were looking for. Mast is able to find Panitom in the jungle. Typhoon was there, but it wasn't enough. And so they do find the pick, and this is right on the timer for red buff spawning, and that's exactly where Mast is going to head. But I don't think he knows just how close he was to actually being there. He's given up on it.
That's true. They don't have the timer
exactly.
Now it's going to be a 4-man rotation because Oswaald kept Netrioid into his own tower line, so this is going to be a good offensive opportunity. However, I think they bit off more than they could chew. Mattypocket, great timing of that Cataclysm preventing the Ragnarok.
And Oswaald has the damage, even the airstrike, but it's just not enough. Ronngyu, with barely any health, is able to make it back out. Oswaald played that about as well as he could, hit the autos. It just wasn't enough damage.
Nice try, but at the end of the day, Ronngyu still having to back to base. Oracles now looks like it's going to go in the favor of Space Station Gold. They walk away with that neutral objective, stripping away the red buff, finding a kill onto Panitom earlier on, which I think Space Station should lean on even further, knowing that the Susano elected to go for the blink, so you cripple him with the regurgitate, and he's not going anywhere between the Jetstream and also the strikes.
I can't believe that worked. Panitom walked across the oracles and then another ward right in front of purple buff that I think just faded away. They certainly knew it was coming, but there's just nothing they could do about it. He was able to kind of bully them out. But look at all these Talaria boots, Totally. I mean, they're everywhere. It's got to just be this movement speed, right?
I think it's also the MP5, honestly, because 25 MP5 is a lot, and that's very easy to just stack up. I'm pretty sure it's 25 MP5, so overall, it's going to take about, what, 6 times in a minute there? I'm sorry, 12 times in a minute total. So that's going to be a total of 300 mana every minute that you're just getting from this item.
That's pretty good. So that might be part of why we're seeing it pop up on these, on Soul Eater, some on both of these junglers. You do want to use their abilities quite often as they move around the map. I like that we're seeing some different itemization options from these junglers and adapting here in Season 6.
It's all about how you incorporate those abilities, though, to be able to group up with your teammates around the jungle side, and so far both of these teams have been doing so. Uzzy not getting the better end of this trade yet again. Jarcorrr actually dipping down, having to use that meditation. It's kind of a race to see who's going to pull the trigger first of that ultimate.
Red buff spawn, though, is going to be the next point of contention. And Mast jumps in right away and drops the ultimate at Sheento's feet, but Sheento has an ultimate of his own, and now Mast is too far forward. A great get shield from Mattypocket, and the shockwave to follow up, but now he's in the mouth of the dog and brought right back, and not a twig, but a rock this time. And they can't actually get the kill. Matty's rolling away.
Oh, beautiful selection there. Going from point B instead of point A, really confusing Ronngyu that wanted that Unchained.
Well, they're going to keep up the chase, though, and Panitom now will right past Wrongs. The credit goes to Netrioid, and that will be a fall in support for Spacestation Gold. Remember, that whole battle was over the red buff spawn, and even though Spacestation, I believe, got it, it's Sanguine who get the kill.
Yeah, Mast definitely forcing the issue onto Sheento with a regurgitate, but the problem was he took too much damage too early. He got stunned out as the Vulcan ultimate was right on top of him. Chapo could be in a little bit of trouble, still having the jump. No, his jump is down apparently.
Yeah, he had no way to get out of there. Unfortunately, using the beads on the tail end of that too. So even once Chapo does respawn in 26 seconds, he won't have those beads to help out. That makes him a target for Panitom if they want to go look for him again, or Ronngyu.
A couple of poor individual choices between some members from Spacestation. Uzzy under that tier 1 mid tower, Chapo trying to be a little bit too close to that soul laner when he's down about a level or two. When you're dealing with a soul laner that has Gladiator Shield, Void Shield, as an Ullr mid or ADC even for that matter, you're just asking for a bad time.
Gold Fury now being considered by Netrioid. He's joined by Ronngyu and Sheento, and I think this is going to work. The only person that knows is Mast, so maybe not. He is on his way and has the regurgitate, and now he's going to come in, has the Butcher's Blades proc, but he can't out-secure the ultimate. Sanguine do secure the Gold Fury, and Mast can't go in to stop them on his own. They just kind of walked up and took it.
That's right. There was just not much that they could do. Sanguine getting the better end of that objective trade, and Space Station just going to have to hold that currently, but they have the health advantage, so they're going to group up 4 members strong under the tier 1 mid tower. Good little knockup from Sheento, disrupting the DPS from Chapo.
Ronngyu goes in aggressively, but once again, Cataclysm prevents him being picked up. They are going to hit 2 members with the stun from Netrioid, but that's a kill for Chapo onto Ronngyu.
Yet again, Mattypocket using that Cataclysm. He's so far 2 for 3 successfully evading that ultimate.
Mast wants to invade on the red buff, but Panitom wants to make him pay, and he absolutely will. He ends up falling. No beads were there available, and there's nothing that could help him. But now Sheento needs some help from Uzzy. He picked up the Celestial Legion helm after all. A little bit extra physical procs might have made that easier.
Also, the meditation being used by Jarcorrr, keeping his mid laner alive yet again. Panitom going into the thick of things, keeping Chapo honest in the backline, forcing the disengage. This time it's Jarcorrr going to force something onto Uzzy. I think that was intended to be a Tiger stun, not necessarily Oxform.
Yes.
Sometimes you might flick the mouse a little too fast.
Yeah, he's going to be able to teleport to this and get the kill. Panitom finds Chapo. He had a great blink as well to get past, I believe it was the guarding Mattypocket, to try and get to that backline. So nice play so far for Panitom. Actually 4-1-1, a part of all but one of the kills so far. You love to see it for your jungler. And the builds for these junglers continue to get more interesting, as it looks like a Witchblade therefore.
A lot of attack speed against the Bakasura that you think about, right? He goes
exactly
for the Golden Blade, he goes for Hasten Katana, so you want to limit the effectiveness of the Butcher Blades for as long as possible. You're thinking of items of Witchblade. You're also considering maybe Merguardian Mail, Horrific Emblem being picked up by Ronngyu, not upgraded quite yet, but for 500 gold, it's going to increase the amount of attack speed reduction.
That's a great point. We already talked about how stacking physical defense is good against this team, but maybe not as good against the Bakasura because of the Butcher Blades. That's the one way to reduce the DPS, as Jarcorrr is in trouble. Those Butcher Blades are hunting him down, and really no options for the Sun Wukong. Without an ultimate, he will be punished.
And without the use of his meditation as well, he had to use it in the mid lane to save Sheento's life, so he's definitely thinking about that instance. If he had the meditation there, he was only a few seconds away from the Somersault Cloud, and that might have bought him enough time to escape.
Pyromancer now being considered by Space Station. Mast gets pulled back in. That's the ultimate from Sheento as well. A nice win for Space Station to force that cooldown, as Uzzy can't find the slow onto Panitom, but he can to Ronngyu, who jumps away. But he's not done looking for more yet. Now he's got Sheento in his sights. He's diving underneath the tower and just barely couldn't take down the dog.
He draws the second ability onto the Fenrir, but a little too tanky with that sovereignty to confirm the kill. Keeping Sheento honest and at bay under the tier 1 tower allows the rest of his teammates to confirm the Pyromancer.
Nice job grabbing that objective while, like you said, Uzzy made some space for everyone else in to breathe. And this is a good performance so far from Space Station. I was worried because they had a difficult week 1, I would say, totally,
Yes.
right? Where there were some unnecessary mistakes on their end that I think really limited their ability to perform. Now seeing them come back in, looking a little bit refocused, going toe-to-toe with a very good Sanguine squad that was actually beating some SPL caliber players in some pre-Season 6 tournaments. I mean, this is not bad for them so far at all.
I would say so. I think that they still have a lot of improvement necessary. I think the communication is what's hurting them currently because they're not synergizing very well together, right? Like when they went under the tier 1 mid tower for Uzzy, his initial death, it seemed a little bit too early. Like he was sitting at level 9 currently. It just didn't make much sense. The lack of communication about potentially Sanguine doing the Gold Fury, that was a big drop play, I think, that could get cleaned up.
There's definitely some places to improve, though. You're right. So that means that the sky is the limit for this team if they can clean those up. As Rage was just finished for Mass, so some crit being added to this heavy attack speed build. Maybe it won't matter as much if it is slowed, if each of those hits is doing even more from the critical strike.
Yeah, Rage is going to be a good idea with how much action so far. There's been 10 kills in about 18 minutes. You can easily stack that up, especially when Mass has been diving Sheento quite heavily. I think he missed a marker that he could have probably picked on Panitom a little bit harder than he already has. Only finding 1 kill onto Panitom when he went for Blink at level 1. I think that could have been at least 2 or 3 kills instead.
Look at this from Ronngyu. He's like he's doing the 2 tier 1s starts in his build. That's very interesting, especially because these aren't particularly strong tier 1s when I look at them.
No, definitely not. I think the tier 1 version of that is like, what, 600 gold for 20 protections. Round shield is 650 gold for 10 power and 5 protections. You're better off doing like 2 tier 2s instead of 2 separate tier 1s. You're getting more value that way.
I got to imagine this is a result of back timings and maybe just wanting a bit of a power spike then from Ronngyu, at least from some.
No, you know what he was
useless
thinking?
gold.
He was about to go Oni's Hunter's Garb, like basically through a mechanical mindset. Like, oh, I always go Oni's Hunter as my
And
fourth
realized
slot.
he didn't really need it as much.
Realize
yeah.
he's only against a Geb.
That's right.
Doesn't need magical defense,
That's
so he's
almost
switching
certainly
it up.
Yeah, good point. That's almost that has to be it, right? Well, and now recognize that he probably doesn't need it, so he'll hold on for now and instead start building into probably something like a Void Shield or around that area, I would imagine.
Probably not a Void
better
Shield,
help.
considering Jarcorrr already has the Void Shield.
Oh, he does. You're right.
Wouldn't be surprised to see
Maybe-
even a Gladiator Shield out of him, or Shifters.
Maybe Shifters, yeah. We saw one earlier on in the week, so that certainly could be the path. I thought we were going to have a Gold Fury battle, but it looks like instead it was a fight for vision as both our teams fall back, approaching the 20-minute threshold here in this game. And it started off a little bit slow. I would say that in the middle of the game we had some action, but it slowed down a little bit here again as these teams are waiting for the right moment to push in. I wouldn't be surprised if Ronngyu is asking for a little bit of time to make sure he's building into some relevant protections.
And Ronngyu going for the Cursed Ankh as well. He needs to upgrade that as quickly as possible to really start limiting some of the healing from Uzzy, or at least increase that amplified damage.
Ronngyu has gone in aggressively. He's bringing Chapo back towards the rest of the team. They're going to drop down the ultra from Netrioid as well, and that means Chapo has no options. He gets burned. Mask going to try and hunt down Netrioid. He's able to do so. That makes it 1-for-1 so far. But a great stun
my goodness.
keeps Ronngyu alive. That's critical. Oswaald has to airstrike away, and that leaves Sanguine in an advantageous position.
Still a 4-on-4, but Oswaald has no more health to play with, and that's going to allow Sanguine to control at least the Gold
Panitom.
Fury side. Not done yet is Panitom. Going to even bully out Uzzy even further. Everyone's grouped up around that tier 1 mid tower, but Gold Fury is more valuable.
This started around that Fury, but apparently it's been long forgotten. Panitom still had the ultimate as well, so I thought he was really going to look for some more aggression, but couldn't find it, and rejoins the team instead. A 1-for-1 actually might end up being worse. Panitom now too far forward, has the Typhoon, but gets blown up by Mass. Not even a chance to get that off.
And that was a pretty 4-man knockup, but just without any follow-up. That's going to be a clean pick. And it disengage into the Gold Fury now. Uzzy and Mattypocket leading the charge with Oswaald following suit. It's up to Ronngyu to stop or delay this.
Specifically the Primal Fury under siege by Spacestation right now. Jarcorrr and Ronngyu are nearby, Cudgel expended, but slowly and steadily is being poked, but they've given up on it. They want the fight instead. Remember, Panitom won't be able to be a part of it. Uzzy trying to force out Sheento, but he's got Ronngyu there to play defense for him. They've got stun, but damage off the marker means they can't kill, and they'll go back to putting damage onto the Fury.
It's very, very low. Spacestation Gold 2 finally confirm it. There goes the
Sheento.
Butcher Blades and Regurgitate. Still a 1-for-1 Hunter for support. Oswaald taking that damage, but not before sealing the deal of Sheento.
He is able to find a kill. That leaves just Ronngyu and Jarcorrr still standing, and finally a convincing fight for Spacestation Gold. Sure, they lose Matty, but they grab the objective. They grab 3 kills, and really they were in a position where they could have kept fighting. And it looks like they are going to go try and push the wave in duo at least. They didn't have any minions pushed up to help them siege a structure. That might be why they fell back.
Yeah, they're going to take a while to get that tower. There's still plenty of time for them to get objectives afterwards, though. 25 seconds for Sheento, 20 on Netrioid. I'm surprised they didn't go for the Pyromancer immediately with about a 4-on-3 advantage, but instead, just gathering farm everywhere that they can, going to clear out some jungle camps, spend all their gold in hand, and find the reset.
And you'd rather be up 3,000 than down 3,000 for sure, but it's also not so much that, you know, there's no way Sanguine can find in. So it is hard to just rest on the laurels of that small lead. Got to make sure you're always getting the most out of it. But certainly a good fight for Space Station, and now they can try and build on that. Everyone will have respawned by now, though, so it'll be even, but they can feel good about it.
I agree. I think Sanguine are still confident. Like, they're not demoralized to the point where, like, oh, we can't fight into this. But at the same time, Space Station can't allow that lead to falsely elude them to the point where they could just force a 5-on-5 Fire Giant. They're still going to have to be methodical about their objectives.
And you can feel good. Look at Ronngyu. He's still level 13. Even Matty is able to pass him. And when you remember that he's, you know, kind of building some Matty defense, his Pyromancer goes down. His curve's been thrown off a little bit, and I don't think that was the intention. So this is a time for Space Station to maybe even try and punish this Fenrir. It looks like he did go into the Void Shield, like you said, even though they already had one. We'll talk about it later as Uzzy is in between 4.
It's not going to matter too much. He's barely taking any damage, getting knocked up and taken out. Ronngyu falls down very quickly. Panitom soon to follow. Next on the chopping block, maybe Jarcorrr.
Hey, glad to see Mass still pretty good at Smite as he finds a double kill on the Bakasura. Tier 1 tower goes down as well, and Uzzy happily zoning away 2 more members with a 5v3 power play. Fire Giant has Space Station written all over it, and they're ready to start pulling the objective. But Sheento still has ult.
That's true, but he's too far away to drop it. They're conceding the Fire Giant. Space Station Gold, 23 minutes, confirming that one.
Much better so far from Space Station, and now doing the right thing, heading directly towards an objective. This is the team that you felt like they had the potential to be, and we're seeing it here on display against a strong Sanguine roster. Tier 2 tower in right goes down, extra 1,500 gold for the squad, and they can back and spend.
Not wanting to abuse Panitom's respawn timer, especially against a Vulcan that has ultimate. Spend that gold in hand, maybe get the last couple of remaining towers. Gold Fury now due to respawn for another 2 to 3 minutes. So, like I mentioned before, Space Station Gold need to play methodically, and they're doing just that.
And you mentioned how well Mask is playing, but it's also good that we point out that Uzzy's just unkillable. You said it during the last fight. I don't know if I'm worried about this Vamana, and you're exactly right. I mean, Blackthorn, Shogun's, Void Shield. At this point, it feels like Sanguine are not able to burn him down quickly at all.
The problem was Ronngyu died at the beginning of that fight, and without the use of the Cursed Ankh, that Vamana ultimate becomes more effective. I want to see Ronngyu upgrade that Cursed Ankh and try to force out Uzzy's ultimate, and then use that Cursed Ankh and blow up this Vamana, even with Sheento focusing him out. Like, just drop the ultimate on the Vamana during the Cursed Ankh upgraded.
Whatever it takes, try and burn through him quickly and not let him run these team fights. They got the Tier 2 tower on the right-hand side, but there's still the mid and Duo 1 remaining. Even the Tier 1 in Duo as well. This one's not been grabbed, so I suppose that's a 1 lane for Netrioid if we use the old-school rules.
What I really want to point out is Uzzy's build. I love the Shogun's Kusari for it, because it's a little bit of magical defense to deal with Sheento, but more importantly, this attack speed. Not only amplifying himself, but also, importantly, the Bakasura. So both Uzzy and Mask going to be looking to dive the same target, which will be Sheento.
Beads come out from early on, but Uzzy's going to stick to him like glue. Hasten Katana putting in work. Where can Sheento go? Finally, the Cursed Ankh comes out. He gets the ultimate off before he dies, though. That's critical. It makes it 1-for-1. Panitom takes down Uzzy. Jarcorrr quite low as well. Aggressive from Mask. He finds one. A double kill as Netrioid goes down as well.
They're looking for a little bit more, though. They want this left side Phoenix. Mask is going to force Ronngyu out. Panitom going to heal it up, and it's only 2 frontliners playing defense. It's 4 members strong from Space Station Gold. How are they going to play it? Looks like they want to go for the end, Finch.
They've got to play this one carefully. It is only 2 members up. but these two members can still do quite a bit of damage. They're going to move right into the Titan room, as you said, but they got to keep their eyes on Panitom. Cataclysm comes through, forced out the beast from Panitom. Titan very low and well below 50% health, and now they've got minions coming in as well. Space Station are able to take game one over. Sanguine looking way better.
26 minutes in Space Station Gold. An outstanding cleanup towards the end portion there.
Yeah.
Mask having a great game. You could tell Uzzy thinking about ways to dive Sheento in that game, working out beautifully.
Yeah, Mast and Uzzy, man, those two really kind of put the work, I would say, on the Sanguine this game. They never at any point had an answer. You're right, the anti-heal didn't feel like it was prioritized in this game early enough. That Vamana just kind of ran away with it.
Yeah, I think Ronngyu needed the Curse Dunk upgrade. If you eliminate Sheento, you eliminate Sanguine's defense options.
A very impressive game there from Space Station. Is that how you all saw it on the desk? Let us know what you thought.
Well, going into that one, I did think the 4 physicals could cause a problem for Space Station Gold, and, well, you did see Sanguine start to build defensively towards that, which could have caused a problem. Vamana and Bakasura, on the other hand, Uzzy and Mast had a field day, and just let their hunters be able to take down some towers. It really was the Vamana-Bakasura show.
I think that the 4 physicals would have been a lot more problematic for Space Station Gold had this game actually approached the later stages. But fortunately enough for Space Station Gold, Mask and Uzzy were putting in work to make sure this game would not go late in the slightest. I mean, it's just the snowball factor, I think. Mask just had a lot of really great regurgitates that were excellent at cutting members off. I think that Jarcorrr one was a primary example there, and Uzzy was just making Sheento's life living hell.
Yeah, because Uzzy just walks at you, dealing with this Bakasura coming at the same time as he's counter-attacking or just shredding your front line. You've still got Vamana in the back, making sure they can't do much, so it worked out very well for Space Station Gold in game number 1. Not a bad little performance. It looks a little bit better than last week, but now Sanguine have a chance to answer back. Talking about Sanguine, I like the way Panitom played that. He was in, out, trying to make things happen, just didn't succeed.
I think Panitom did what he could with the situation that he was in with the rest of Sanguine. From the start, it just felt like things were kind of problematic there because Mask and Uzzy were just able to influence so much of the map. We even saw a super early rotation from Chapo into the duo lane that kind of got things, that got the ball rolling for Space Station Gold. I think that early momentum swing for Space Station continued to build throughout the rest of that game. And Panitom, for what it's worth, like you already said, I mean, credit where it's due. He did a great job in the Susano trying to infiltrate into the back line, but there's only so much that he can do when there's very little follow-up to rely on because Sheento was just being so heavily controlled.